In this video, we're going to be talking about algebraic expressions and how to evaluate them. First, we must know what an algebraic expression is. It is a mathematical phrase made up of numbers and variables. Remember, a variable is a letter that represents an unknown number in an expression. A variable can be any lowercase letter in the alphabet. In order to evaluate algebraic expressions, we want to use what we call the substitution property. What the substitution property states is if A equals B, then A may be replaced for B in any expression. So let's look in depth at evaluating expressions. In order to evaluate an expression, you must substitute the variable with the given values. Each time you substitute a variable with a number, you want to put parentheses around the number. This is going to help you from making simple mistakes. Then you are going to follow order of operations to evaluate. This is extremely important to remember, and oftentimes we forget it. You must follow the order of operations. So to review order of operations, over to the side, we use the acronym PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, which most students are very familiar with and tend to use well, but do get confused or forget that when you have multiplication and division in the same problem, you want to do those in order from left to right. So if division comes first when you're reading the expression from left to right, do that division first. The same thing applies to addition and subtraction. If you have both of those operations in the same expression, do them in order from left to right. Let's take a look at a few examples and practice evaluating expressions. Number 1, we are going to evaluate the expression AB squared plus C if we know that A equals 2, B equals 4, and C equals 7. So we're first going to substitute in the variables for their values, making sure that we put parentheses around each number we're substituting. So instead of A, we're going to substitute in the number 2, putting that 2 in parentheses. Instead of B, we're going to substitute the number 4, and the squared goes on the outside of that parentheses. The only thing you want to put inside the parentheses is the number you're substituting. Plus, instead of C, we're going to substitute 7. Next, we're going to follow order of operations and evaluate this expression. According to PEMDAS, we want to do our exponent first. And as we perform order of operations, anything we're not using, we're just going to continue to bring down. So according to order of operations, we're going to do this 4 squared first. Everything else is going to come down. So we're going to bring down our 2 in parentheses. 4 squared, remember, is not 4 times 2 is 8. 4 squared is 4 times 4 is 16. And we're going to keep that 16 in parentheses bring down your plus 7. Then, according to order of operations, we multiply next. 2 times 16 is 32. Bring down your plus 7. 32 plus 7 equals 39. So when we evaluate this expression with the given values, we get 39. Let's take a look at another example. In this example, we're going to evaluate 3x squared minus 4x, and we are given the information that x equals negative 2. So everywhere there's an x, we're going to substitute in negative 2, making sure we're putting that negative 2 in parentheses. 3 parentheses negative 2 with the squared on the outside. Remember, the only thing on the inside is going to be the number you're substituting. Minus 4 parentheses negative 2. Again, we want to follow order of operations in order to solve this, and order of operations tells us to do this exponent first. Bring down your 3. Negative 2 squared is negative 2 times negative 2, which is 4. Bring down the minus 4 times negative 2. Next, according to order of operations, we're going to multiply. 3 times 4 is 12, minus 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. I keep that negative 8 in parentheses so that I don't get confused with the subtraction and the negative sign. 12 minus negative 8 can be written as 12 plus 8, and 12 plus 8 is 20. So when I evaluate the expression given that x equals negative 2, I get 20. I want to take a look at a couple of more in the you try section. First, I want to take a look at number 5. Number 5 has the expression negative y squared minus 3xy, given that x equals negative 4 and y equals 2. So we're going to substitute those values in. We want to start by bringing down the negative in front of our y, and then in parentheses, 2 squared. So notice the negative is outside the parentheses and the squared is also outside the parentheses. The only thing we want inside the parentheses is the number we're substituting. Minus 3 parentheses. Instead of x, we're going to put in negative 4, and instead of y, 2. Both numbers in parentheses. Now that we've substituted our values, we're going to use order of operations in order to evaluate the expression. And according to order of operations, we're going to do the exponent first. The negative outside your parentheses is not part of the exponent, so we are going to bring that negative sign down. 2 squared is 2 times 2, which is 4. And then we are going to bring the rest of our expression down. We don't want to do too many steps at once to avoid mistakes. Next, according to order of operations, we are going to multiply. Remember, multiplying is like addition. It doesn't matter which order we multiply in. We're going to bring down our negative 4 minus, and then I'm going to multiply 3 times negative 4, which is negative 12. Negative 12 times 2, which is negative 24. Again, like in the previous example, I put the negative 24 in parentheses so that there is not confusion with the subtraction sign and the negative. But we can rewrite this problem as negative 4 plus 24. Negative 4 plus 24 equals 20. So when we evaluate this expression, we get a positive 20. Let's take a look at another one together. Let's look at number 7 together. A squared plus B squared divided by A minus B, knowing that A equals 3 and B equals 4. So again, we're going to start by substituting in the values we know and putting those values in parentheses. 3 squared plus 4 squared with the 3 and 4 in parentheses, divided by 3 minus 4. When we solve problems or evaluate expressions that have a numerator and denominator, you want to start by evaluating the expression in the numerator all the way down, and then evaluate the denominator all the way down, and do the division. So remember, this fraction bar means to divide. That's going to be your very last step. So according to order of operations, we're going to do, looking at just our numerator, we're going to do exponents first. 3 squared is 3 times 3, which is 9, plus 4 squared, 4 times 4 is 16. Over, in our denominator, all we have is 3 minus 4, which is negative 1. My numerator is not finished. I still need to add 9 plus 16. 9 plus 16 equals 25. And since my denominator is done, I can just bring the negative 1 over. Now that my numerator and denominator are both finished, I can divide. 25 divided by negative 1 is negative 25, because a positive divided by a negative is a negative. I'd like to look at one more with you before you try some on your own. Number 11. Negative a squared minus 2bc minus the absolute value of c, knowing that a is negative 2, b is 3, and c is negative 3. So for this problem, we must remember what absolute value means. Remember, the absolute value of a number is the distance that number is from 0. So the absolute value of a number always has to be positive. But before we get to that, we're going to substitute in our values, making sure that we're putting parentheses around everything. Negative, parentheses, negative 2 squared. So I have a negative on the outside of the parentheses. That's the negative in front of the a in my original expression. Then I have negative 2 on the inside because a equals negative 2. And then again, the squared is going to be on the outside of your parentheses. Minus 2, parentheses 3, parentheses negative 3. Those values for both b and c both need to be in parentheses. Minus the absolute value of parentheses negative 3. So according to order of operations, we're going to do this exponent first. So I'm going to bring down the negative that is outside my parentheses. Negative 2 squared is negative 2 times negative 2, which is a positive 4, minus 2 times 3 times negative 3, minus, I'm going to go ahead and take care of this absolute value here because absolute value is not part of order of operations. So I'm going to go ahead and do it in this first step. So the absolute value of negative 3 is positive 3. Remember, absolute value is the distance from 0, and distance always has to be a positive value. Next, I'm going to continue on with order of operations, and I would need to multiply. Negative 4 minus 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 3 is negative 18. So again, putting that negative 18 in parentheses so I don't get it confused with the subtraction sign, and then bring down that minus 3. Before I continue my next step, I'm going to rewrite it so that I don't have this subtraction and negative side by side. So it's like rewriting your subtraction with a negative that we talked about in our previous lesson, where you change it to addition and then change that negative 18 to its opposite. So I still have the negative 4. I'm going to change it to addition and then change it to a positive 18 instead of a negative 18. And then I'm going to bring down my negative 3. So I went ahead and rewrote that, so then I can add negative 4 plus 18, which is a positive 14, minus 3. And then 14 minus 3 is 11. Next, if you'll go ahead and go back up to that first page, and I want you to highlight number 3, 4, and 6. And then on the second page, if you will highlight number 8, 9, 10, and 12. And then at the bottom of the page where it says summary, you can X that section out.